Greetings, this is John Mark Walker, and I'm here with
Ura.
and we are going to talk to you about the Copperhead Developer Summit that we recently concluded in Oregon State on January 12th through 14th. It was a great time had by all. We had lots of new faces show up. It was a much different experience from the one we had in September. I think in this case, only about a third of the people were from EMC as opposed to last time, where it was like 90%. So the Copperhead community is growing. People are contributing. We've got new projects, new stuff happening. We all came together at Oregon State in Corvallis, Oregon, to talk about it and to plan what we're doing next. What are we doing next, Rhoda?
So the big three projects that are gonna be worked on, and we're hoping to get done before EMC World, is one, to get it running in Ubuntu. Two, to simplify the process of getting started when you're developing, so that you can do all of your development and even your testing from either your Mac or your Windows box.
We want it to actually be usable.
Right, using a we call it a development kit, or basically you run Copperhead on a machine in the lab, and then you establish a tunnel between your computer and that one, and essentially you run local code remotely. And that's something some people are able to do, and so we just want to make it easier. And then the third one was, some people have been having issues when they're doing work coding behind like a corporate proxy or something like that. So we're trying to make it so that the build can handle that sort of situation a bit easier.
So you can handle proxies automatically. Automatically.
Right. Any kind of configuration like that, it should be much easier now.
In addition to that, we've got the work continuing on the OpenStack integration, the Cinder Quality of Service project. We've got lots of stuff happening on the container front. We've got incoming contributions from some Flocker guys, as well as some Portworx and Open Storage guys to integrate with container storage controllers. So, and we're going to look at a direct Docker integration ourselves. We've got guys that are contributing a Ceph integration, and that's going to be fun. Ceph integration, who knows what's going to happen? We've got the new Scale.io driver that uses the new Southbound SDK. So lots of good things are happening. Go to copperhead.org, find out all about it, and watch the next videos, where we'll be really get to see the sausage getting made.
It's so much fun. You should totally watch it. Thank you.
Thanks.
To those of you who were here last time but not here in Boston, how awesome is this room? Much better, right?
Yeah.
Especially than the first day. Remember that one? Oh God.
Hey, who did the coordination? That's what you
Shane's the man.
What?
If any of you need anything, he's the guy you go to.
Including the umbrellas.
Anything.
Anything.
Sales. I saw some water fountains back there.
Share this.
Anybody needs to go? Bathrooms are also like on the other side over there.
At 3 o'clock, they're going to have coffee and water services.
Yeah. Wow.
Cameras.
Nice.
So they.
We rated coffee.
That's
That's awesome. Before we get officially started, I just figure we just go around the room, say hi, who we are, and then we get started. My name is Ura. I work for EMC, and I've been working on the Copperhead project since inception, and really happy. Wow, we get kind of like double in one sitting. That's great.
We're gonna have to meet in a whole new building next meetup.
Great. Next one is the EMC World, right? We just
Sure, we have a
hang out and go there.
the whole
Vegas.
nation. I'm Kurt Bruns, work for Intel, been on the Copperhead project for, I guess, about since June when it first went open source.
Yeah.
Been development on it.
Pretty Charging from Intel. Been there with Copperhead right from the beginning.
I am Nate Potter, also from Intel. I'm just starting with Copperhead. I have a little bit of experience working in OpenStack Cinder though.
I am Anil from EMC. I came from EMC Bangalore working on Copperhead and working mainly on OpenStack.
I'm Piotr, in Poland, together with Daniel and Kurt, we are working on open stack integration in CoprHD.
Anybody who had to fly more than 20 hours goes on this table right here.
We're missing at least one.
Just saying. Okay, this area. Good.
There goes like 4 o'clock.
I am Devanjan Sarkar. I'm from EMC, and I was originally the one who led from password controller transitioning into open source, and then now with a good team in place, so I'm back to doing my usual stuff and supporting some initiative. We have a presentation today afternoon. We'll talk about it.
Hello, Ben Perkins, with EMC, based out of Texas, so I definitely did not win the flying competition, but glad to be here for my second CoprHD Summit. Been working on CoprHD kind of from the beginning and through now, so glad to be here.
I'm Chen Wei Liu. I'm working for Intel. I just joined the CoprHD. You coming?
Hi. Hi, I'm Ambrish, based out of EMC Seattle. I work on the corporate community engagement and social media. It was me who made the image of
Yes, I was going to mention that.
That is a big improvement. All right.
I'm Sean McGinnis, I'm from Dell, and also the current OpenStack Cinder PTO. Just getting involved in CoprHD, but mostly learning here. Literally just got an install working last week, so sweet.
Thank you for joining us.
Nice.
I'm Lance Albertson. I'm the director of the Open Source Lab here at Oregon State University, so I didn't have to go very far at all.
The units are different.
Carlos, we're going this way?
Yeah.
I'm Carlos Jensen. I'm a faculty member here at OSU, software engineering and usability. Not that we have any usability issues here. And I am the director of the Center for Applied Systems and Software, where we partner with industry and government organization open source projects to try to help them out and meet their needs, and at the same time train up students to get the hands-on skills that you need.
Jason Davidson, I am an EMC employee, formerly an Intel employee, and I own the Intel business development relationship for EMC, and was very involved in this community.
Hi all, my name is Varun. I'm an OSU graduate student pursuing computer science at Oregon State University. I'm working on the Scale.io driver with my team here.
Hi, I'm Shruti. I'm also a graduate student in OSU and also in the Scale driver project.
I'm Taylor. I'm studying computer science here at OSU and also working on the Scale.io driver. Also.
I'm a graduate student at OSU, studying computer science, and I'm also working with these guys on Scale.io.
Okay, Indra, next time you can't sit together.
Why we do it? Hey, 20+ hour flyers.
Well, look very mean.
Hi everyone, my name is John Hunter. I work for EMC as well. I'm out of Portland. I'm part of the pre-sales systems engineer organization. So I lead a team of pre-sales systems engineers that help support OSU as a customer, help support Intel as a customer, and a lot of our other large customers in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks
From
for
sales?
this event.
He's paying for dinner. Nice. Nice.
There's a difference, pre-sales.
Ah.
There's a difference.
This is the promise.
I promise to pay for dinner, buddy.
John's expense reports come to me, so I'll just we're systems engineering, not sales. I'm Dana Young, and I've got the systems engineers across Pacific Northwest and Northern California in the same organization.
Which direction? Yeah.
This is Roy, yes. I'm Dan Jeffroy. I'm with EMC. Been with CoprHD since the beginning. My team does a lot of the appliance container, OpenSUSE, the install deployment base OS level for Copperhead.
Tom?
I'm Tom Watson. I was at the first summit, and I've kind of been working on Copperhead since it started, and Viper before that, and Viper now. Mostly I work in storage provisioning and some infrastructure stuff like workflows and stuff like vFlex and all kinds of stuff, right? So welcome. We're really glad to see this great turnout. So, neat.
Cool. Hi, I'm Ritika, and I'm from Intel Bangalore.
Cool.
I've met you guys at the Tokyo Summit. I'm from the data center group, and I'm looking at rack-based SDI controllers. So Copperhead is one of the controllers I'm considering for my solution.
Cool. Yes. Who's next? Oh.
Shane.
Sorry, I was trying to. I'm Shane Huddleston. I'm the Director of IT Infrastructure for the university here. I didn't go far. I went approximately 50,000 centimeters. And then I made a big number and changed it.
I'm Malini Bandaru, and I'm with Intel in the Open Source Technology Center. I've been working on OpenStack for about 3 years. So I know a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
Jack of all, master of none. And my team and I are all based in Santa Clara, Portland, and Nate's on our team. Chulma is on my team.
Cool. Awesome. So are you related to Dirk's group at all, or there's a Linux group separate from the open source?
We're part of the same,
umbrella.
open source technology.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. So yes, I'm the guy in the loud jacket, as always, and my name is John Mark Walker. I've been at EMC for about 3-4 months now. Oh my God. And came out to try to figure out how to make the Copperhead community process work more efficiently and get more people engaged. And I've been doing that for about 15 years with a bunch of startups and Red Hat, and now I'm at EMC. So. You interested? Oh, yeah, we have goodies. We can just slice those open, and anybody can get them if they want. Or did you introduce yourself, or no? You did. Okay, you did. So we're good.
Did we miss anyone?
I think we made the rounds. I think we're good. So first off, I just want to point out that not all of you signed up on the Eventbrite page, which means that we don't have enough food tonight. But hey, but I think we need to adjust our body count for dinner. Yes, who wants to go to dinner at 7? Keep your hand up. So that's pretty much everyone.
Is it free or is it?
Yeah. No, you're paying for everyone. Yeah.
We got people from Intel. I think we got this. Yeah.
Yes, dinner is provided. So we got. So wait. So how many? It's basically everyone, right? I mean.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Who doesn't want to go to dinner? Who cannot?
I cannot.
Oh, so 4 people cannot go. Okay, so that. Okay, we have just. You know, I think we said 20. So I think that would.
I'm with 45.
Smart man. You've done this before.
Right. John, you're going to take care of it this time.
Yes.
Next time the pre-sales guys are going to get the sales guys.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I didn't know you were coming until I'd already committed to that. But yes, welcome. This is great turnout. I'm very, very pleased. We've got a lot of exciting things going on. It's been a really good year getting this thing started. Not to start things out on a down note, but just to let you know that the number of projects that go from a commercial product to a successful open source project is very, very few. Very few companies have been able to pull this off. So I'm actually very pleased with the progress that we've made in such a short amount of time compared to a lot of other projects that have tried to go this way and failed. We've made significant progress compared to a lot of other projects that I've personally been involved in. The amount of external contributions, thank you, Reddy, thank you, Intel guys. Your presence is so much, very much appreciated, and the same with Oregon State. You know, the fact that we have active contributions from all these different people outside of the original core team, it means a lot, and it's a very good marker for
current and future success. So I just want to say that, for full stop, because what we're doing is not easy at all. You would think it's easy, but it's actually, turns out it's very hard because everyone has these preconceived notions of what open source is and how it works, and usually turns out differently than what they assumed from the beginning. So with that little pat on the back, we'll get started. A few logistical things. Like I mentioned, dinner tonight at 7. What's the place?
Big River. Big River?
Big River, okay. So,
about 5 blocks away.
On First Street.
Okay. We'll figure it out when we get to that time. We have quite a few things. We have a few sessions today, a few sessions tomorrow. If you go to the Eventbrite page, it has the most recent agenda. So that will give you kind of the most recent setup, the most up-to-date agenda so far. It will change, and as these things do, because this is a developer summit, and when developers get in the same room, things change. That's the whole point, kind of. So don't be surprised if we end up changing the game as we move along. Note that this mic is live. It is being broadcast as we speak to YouTube. So anything you say here can and will be heard by people outside. Just keep that in mind.
Heard but not seen. We're on audio but not video.
Oh, we can make video if you guys want. I mean, it's easy.
Yeah, so disclaimer, I'm not responsible for any of the things people say. So just so we get that clear from the beginning. Oh, and anything I say is not necessarily the opinion of my employer. Just get that. And this statement may contain forward-looking. All right. So I wanted to go through kind of where we are as a community and what we're looking for in this coming year. I was at the right spot. No. There we go. What we have to look forward to for the coming year, what's going to be happening, and how we can all jump in together and help. So I'll go through a few minutes of this, and then I think Ben has some things he wants to say about the new technical steering committee, what we're doing with that, the bylaws, and all that good stuff. I'm just basically the cheerleader, so I'll get this over with in the beginning. If you need Wi-Fi information, it's posted on the wall there. It's the visitor network. It looks like a pretty simple setup process, so it shouldn't be too time-consuming. Other housekeeping items. Shane, where are the bathrooms?
Across there.
Okay, there you go. And other than that, I don't think there's anything else that we have a break kind of later. What?
I think we need to know what kind of adapters we need there for that display. I was going to run over there real quick and grab a display port for them. We don't have a VGA display port today.
To do what?
Mini display port.
Oh, yeah, if you have a Mac and you're presenting, you may be SOL.
Well, I'm going to go fix it.
Okay, thanks.
I'm the director of IT. All things.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully people brought their dongles because it always happens inevitably. Cool. Yeah, just in case people need it. So what are we here for? We are here to build the world's most popular software-defined storage controller platform to have the largest user base, to have the largest base of developer users. To be a platform, to actually qualify as a platform, has to be things that people target as a platform. From northbound developers on the cloud and cloud native side to the southbound developers on the storage side. Both sides need to see Copperhead as something of value in order for it to be a viable platform. And so towards that end, this next year is going to be all about how do we accelerate development on the northbound and southbound side? How do we get all the cloud platforms to utilize Copperhead as the primary way to access storage resources? And then on the southbound side, how do we get storage providers to recognize that Copperhead is their avenue to cloud native applications and orchestration? So that's kind of the whole ball game right there. And that's well.
Oh my God, it's over already.
Yeah, no, I guess we can all go home. So that's what we're here for. Does anyone dispute this before I go forward? Because it's kind of important. If someone doesn't think that's the case, then we kind of have to reestablish that. Recently, we had Copperhead 2.4 release. It's the first release where we actually had a fully branded Copperhead. Previous to this, if you downloaded from copperhead.org, you got a bunch of bits that said Viper. And I think it's very important for an open source community to have an established identity, to have an established brand, so that when you download the thing that it says, then you have certain expectations about how it will function, how it will look. And 2.4 was really about being able to meet those expectations and make it a usable thing that people have to buy into the identity, both people core to the project as well as outsiders who come in. Developing identity is extremely important in the formative stages of an open source community. Also, with this release, we formalized the technical steering committee. We have a set of bylaws, and Ben will go into the details there. And we had our first live stream event on December 9th. Did anyone actually catch the live stream of that? Just curious if anyone had the patience to make it through. No. All right, got it. And positively, we had some really good press reception to what we're releasing. There were about 10 articles written about the release. It was actually a really good pickup. We're very satisfied by that, and hopefully we'll see more and more of that as we go forward. The Southbound SDK, we announced basically as part of that release, we included a big part of that release was announcing who's participating in the project, and so part of that was the emphasis on the Southbound SDK as a project in and of itself, and the OpenStack integration, another project that we announced. As for the Southbound SDK, it's a great area for outside or non-core project members to participate and to contribute. And so right now we have kind of the first steps towards a Southbound SDK. I think it'll be expected to be code complete in sometime in March or April, in the spring timeframe. And we have, concurrently with that, we've got our OSU guys leading up the project to develop the new Scale.io driver. And that's actually a really important set of work because it's going to validate or invalidate our thoughts about the Southbound SDK and let us move forward with that going forward. So we look forward to hearing more about that later this week. And then the new Scale.io driver. And then it looks like they had that kind of the first batch of code that was ready in early December, just in time for our previous release. So that was very exciting. And I just heard yesterday, and I'm hoping to get a demo of this going either later today or later this week, but I just heard that the first implementation of a Ceph driver has been completed. And so this is by Randy Bias's team, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a demo of that. Hopefully I can get that scheduled either tomorrow or Thursday. That's, in my mind, that's a really good way for us to extend the coverage of Copperhead and win more users going forward. So why do we do all this stuff? I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but as we move through the process of going from Viper to Copperhead, it's been important to establish identity for Copperhead and to establish a process for going from community project to downstream product. There's not much you have to take away from this, except that one of the markers of success of an open source project is when you have multiple products downstream from it. We're not there yet, but hopefully we'll be soon. Since the release, we've made a concerted effort. Well, first off, when we first did this release, like way back, or when we first announced it way back in May, there were a lot of doubtful comments about whether or not we were serious about doing it. And I think when you look at the amount of effort we've put into the community process, the amount of effort we've made into reaching out to prospective developers and contributors, I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind at this point that we are in fact serious about doing this. And every step we take puts us further down the path that we want to go. So everything we've done, from hiring me to all the different pieces of the TSC and the bylaws, going out with the larger story, the identity, it's all about building this larger ecosystem and community and making it larger than it's ever been before, larger than ourselves. There's also, if you notice, a little arrow pointing down to the different ways you can consume Copperhead. That also dovetails in with something I'm going to talk about later about making it more usable and talking about the usability story, getting those case studies out there, getting more, not necessarily customers, but getting more users involved and targeting kind of where are the audiences that we want to reach from a user standpoint. And a lot of well, you are the Copperhead community, so you can vouch for this. But we now have everything you want to do, you can do from CoprHD.org, from file a ticket to look up documentation on the wiki to pull directly from Git or Git repos to whatever you want to do. That was actually a very important thing to establish. Thanks to Ura, we now have a next revision of the website, so it's even more informative and user-friendly than it was before. So what our priorities going forward are, so the diagram right now is pretty aspirational. Not everything you see down there is actually supported yet, but we have either thoughts around doing it or actually actively working on it at the moment. But it's all about, how do we create this open software-defined storage community? How do we build out the ecosystem? How do we make it easy for northbound and southbound contributors to participate, to build this stuff out? And it's going to be about enabling these people to do it more easily, more quickly, and accelerating the progress. So when you look at what we've been able to do in just a few months, it's actually really impressive. I mean, look at all the bullets here that sort of show all that we've done. From the first code drop, and there's a lot of effort that went into that just to get everything in place and in process to release the code in the first place, to the first release, to the first community website that was visible to the outside world, to developer summit that we had in Cambridge back in September, to this developer summit we're having now, to the bylaws, to the TSC, and then the 2.4 release. And this is just, these are just the first steps, and yet already we have quite a set of things that we can point to that show, how viable this is, and with positive prospects for future growth. So when you say future growth and success, what do I mean by that? When you really think about it, what do we want to say at this time next year? What do we want to point to as successes for 2016? How do we want to actually grow this thing? I think it's pretty clear that as the year goes on, we want other storage vendors to participate. We want to see their support built in. We want to see more northbound cloud orchestration pieces wrapped in, integrated in. We want to see a container story, which we're going to hear more about this afternoon, which is great. All these things, these are all very important steps to take over this next year and priorities to establish around 2016. To that end, it's all going to be about how do we enable people to do things? How do we empower them to do more? We need more content. Well, we actually have a really good set of content now around for both users and developers to get started. I think I would put up our content against a whole lot of other projects just in terms of getting started stuff and being able to do advanced things. We're going to be pushing a much larger, much more aggressive social media story. Ambrish in the back is going to be helping with that a lot. So he's going to be instrumental there. Like I mentioned, the northbound-southbound integrations, that's obviously a huge priority for us. And then usability. Can someone unfamiliar with Copperhead come to the website and get going quickly? And can they be brought to their aha moment within minutes, or is it going to take hours? How do we get that time down so we can get that? Forgive me for using this in advance. Getting that hockey stick of a growth curve, but it's all about making it more usable, more accessible, more consumable, and just building on that going forward. And that's really all I have. Ben, you want to say a few words about your role as TSC Master, TSC Grandmaster? Sorry, Benevolent Dictator for Life, I think is that what we call it?
Exactly what grandiose title. We'll put that forward.
No, hey, get up, come here. Let people see you.
These are highly prepared remarks that I've been thinking about for at least 30 seconds. It's great them on the curve. All right, so John Lark covered almost everything I was thinking I might cover, so this will be brief, but it's been an interesting adventure for Copperhead over this last year because from the beginning where he was talking about getting the source code ready, I was involved with that. I was involved in sort of standing up the infrastructure, saying how do we get this closed infrastructure that's all inside the EMC's firewall moved out into the open where anyone can contribute and still have Viper move forward while we're doing it. And so it was an interesting calculus that we've been going through for a while to open up development on a moving airplane, train, I don't know, pick your metaphor. But I think I'm pretty happy with where we've come. And so this is, the TSC is sort of the next step. We put the code out there, and then we put out the build system, and now we're sort of saying, okay, now how do we figure out how to drive forward with Copperhead? And so we don't have really any official political organs. I mean, John Mark is helping with promotion and marketing and community development and all the rest, but the TSC is not in that business. We are all people that write code, architects, that kind of stuff. We have folks from within EMC, Tom, you've met here. Bill Elliott, unfortunately, was not able to make it. We've got Reddy from Intel. We've got Shane helping from the Oregon State side. And our mission, as I see it, is to sort of steer, largely from a technical standpoint, Copperhead forward into the future that he's been laying out here for you, and making sure that we make good decisions for the quality of the product and provide guidance to developers and make sure that we can move forward as a community and build a quality product. So he said most popular platform, and that's a good thing to have. I want it to be the best platform from a technical standpoint and usable for customers. And so I think that's, as I see it, sort of our mission to make sure that people know how to get involved, what projects will move the platform forward, and steer those in to the roadmap as we go forward. So the TSC, you can go on the wiki, there's a set of bylaws that he talked about, and it talks about the role of the TSC, but largely the community will help drive what the roadmap will be, but the TSC is sort of the referees saying, okay, these are the projects that look like they make sense, and this is where we can slot them in for releases and all of that. And so as a community, inclusively with, like I say, right now, EMC, Intel, and OSU representation, but that is not set in stone. Every year there'll be elections for TSC members, and the community is welcome and encouraged, and we hope we'll get involved and more vibrant all the time, and even have more organizations joining in. So we're looking forward to working with the entire Copperhead community going forward this year.
What was it like getting the bylaws approved? How many different iterations do we go through on that?
I was not actually in the first iterations of the bylaws. It was largely completely transparent to me, but it went through many revisions with different executives, different directors, different whatever, back and forth for several months before I even plugged into it. And then in the third quarter of last year or whatever, there were, I know we went out to Intel and went out to OSU and...
What's up?
About 30 iterations.
At least 30?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it was
March of the year.
Right. So yeah, it was an interesting process trying to work through. Obviously, EMC, Copperhead is a first for EMC in terms of, we have a few more now, I think, in open source, but Copperhead was the first major case of EMC releasing open source, and so there were a lot of internal legal things that had to be dealt with and things that had never been done before, as well as trying to go out to the community and go out to others and try to figure out, all right, what's a community process that works and will make the community feel engaged and empowered.
And speaking of legal, I am not a PowerPoint expert, so I could not figure out how to remove the EMC logo and the all rights reserved thing on the, but I figured someone who's, what's that?
Yeah, we'll disregard.
So, but I did try.
A screenshot and paint.
White box over.
Anyway.
I can help you.
Yeah, I can help with that too.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I mean, we're you know, there's no doubt that EMC is a big part of this community right now, and that's not a bad thing. But we're looking for other people to grow into that realm as well, and we're looking for technical contributions. We're looking for leadership. We're looking for all of that to help guide Copperhead, because definitely the energy for fresh ideas and fresh direction can come from any of you. So, any questions or?
So John Mark, in your slide you said we want one big partner among the 5 big or something.
At least one.
Which are those 5?
Honestly, I don't care. I just.
No.
Who are the big 5? Oh, sorry. Sorry. You get stuck in this industry and you forget that other people are not. So companies like NetApp, Hitachi Data Systems, IBM. There are a couple others I'm missing. I'd love to see, now that we've started it down the road of a SAP driver, I'd love to see Red Hat pick up the ball and start contributing from that direction as well. So I'm probably missing one more, but who? Yes, HP. Thank you. So those types of companies. So far we've had some discussions, and they'll continue, and hopefully we can keep driving that forward. But that's the level of company I'd like to see as a partner this next year.
It's kind of driving the story that obviously Viper started out supporting EMC arrays the best. We had NetApp support. We've added in some Hitachi support, but we know our arrays the best. We can write the best drivers for them, and it's honestly a challenge to buy all of the other hardware from all our competitors, and if so, be able to write all the best drivers for it. And so the best support we can have for a large array of storage arrays is have people from those different companies contributing and seeing, I've got to have a driver for Copperhead, or I'm being left out of the storage picture. And so that's really where we want to see is these guys wanting to be part of Copperhead and feeling like it's important to support that for their customers.
Cool.
All right.
Anything else?
Other questions before I think we're going to dive right into I think the agenda still says southbound, right?
I think, yeah, for 2 o'clock. Ura, do you want to, you have any remarks you want to impart?
Thank you for coming.
It feels weird to welcome you all here since I'm not from here, but I'm glad you're all here. I'm grateful to Shane for playing host along with the rest of the folks here from Oregon State. So yeah, we hope to have, we've got a number of topics on the agenda for discussion. There'll be some presentation, there'll be some demonstration, and there'll be a lot of discussion. And if the agenda gets totally derailed by discussion, but it's good discussion, then we won't have failed. In other words, we set up the agenda as a TSC and as a group to try to be interesting to the community, to provide information to the community, and also to learn. And so anything that yields that result will be success, at least in my opinion. And so feel free to jump in with questions. We're not trying to leave anybody behind here. And so we're still learning how to run an open source project. And so feel free to help us learn.
Yes.
Including by criticism, hopefully friendly. But anyway, no, we're looking forward to this. So,
you ready?
Yeah.
Do you have any introductory comments you want to make about the TSC and why you're here?
No, I mean, I think.
You gonna come up ready?
Get up. No. Shane, you're next.
This was not planned.
Exactly. No, you have almost as much notice as me.
No sympathy for me. So, I think just stepping back and looking at it, I think in 2014, Intel and Oregon State University, we spent a ton of time to figure out what exactly we mean by software-defined storage. So let me step back a little bit. So we spent almost a year in Intel to figure out what do we mean by software-defined storage. And convincing all the groups within Intel was a daunting task. So that was the first step. Out of that
after you
effort,
got involved with Copperhead?
it's long before.
Oh, okay.
So sometime in 2014, 2013, late 2013 or so. Out of that effort, we defined what SDS framework is supposed to be. Then the question is, it's not just Intel. We have to work with all our partners to make sure that the industry as a whole agrees to what we mean by software-defined storage framework. So myself and Shane, we actually spent quite a bit of time going outside promoting software-defined storage framework and what do we mean by it, what do we need to do in the industry, and all the good stuff. I think sometime in 2014, late 2014, we had discussion with EMC. And we met with CTO office, we met with Viper team, and lots of heated discussions on it does not make sense to open source, right? So Jason actually was in the middle of the discussion too. So a lot of heated discussions on why it doesn't make sense, why we were pretty much on the wrong track, all kinds of things. But towards the early part of January, things have changed completely. We went to Boston right around this time last year. Pretty bad, weather. Kurt was saying, hey, we always tend to pick up Q1, which tends to be pretty bad. So it was, in March timeframe, we talked about what, so EMC team wanted to actually share their ideas and what they wanted to do, Viper team specifically. And outcome of the discussion was, hey, we are going to open source it. Your dates. Oh, here are the dates. I don't know if you can actually project it, but this is so September 10th. This was the idea of one. Was this the idea of one? September 10th?
I don't want to steal your thunder. So
Okay.
I can talk though if you want.
So September 10th was when the Intel Developer Forum, you guys announced that you guys are doing your own software design, storage control, and open source. By December 2nd, we had our summit where you guys talked with EMC's
So that was the software summit in 2014.
And that was in Arizona.
Yeah.
January 29th is when EMC made the decision to go all in on this.
Open source it.
Oh, wow.
And March 5th, 6th was our kickoff that you guys had out in Hopkinton.
Yeah.
April 8th and 9th, we had our second follow-up in Arizona.
A lot of debate around the licensing stuff.
A lot of revisions
so
of
that's
the
where the
stuff.
30 plus revs actually showed up, right? So that was the beginning of debate.
May 5th was when the code went live. The announcement was happening on May 5th.
And June is the code.
And the code went live on June 5th. So it was 3 months from the decision to do it to actually code live.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
This was all planned. It looks like he prepared for it.
The slides were made 3 years ago.
Timelines are awesome if you do them after you do them.
Exactly. So, so I mean, 2 years of work actually went behind the scenes, both within Intel, with, I think in 2014, I probably shared the SDS framework with 50 or 60 different customers. Last year, I switched completely from very vague, abstract SDS framework to, hey, here is a real implementation. And it's all about Copperhead, right? So we talked to a lot of customers about Copperhead and, what does it take for us to actually do the POCs and how do we work together? So the goal was, how do we bring in more and more developers as well as the end customers, plus ISVs, OEMs, and ODMs into the community. So a lot of focus around, going into the industry, promoting Copperhead, and trying to get pulse on what they think about, Copperhead, what is good, what is bad, what do we need to do differently. So out of those discussions, in fact, in OpenStack Vancouver, we had a lot of discussions with NetApp and few others. Based on those discussions, so if you were to look at the history of the licensing model, it started off as MPL. Lot of concerns about the licensing model ended up actually changing to Apache, right? So, but it was all about listening to the the feedback from the ecosystem to figure out what is the right thing to do for the community. And one thing I want to say is the EMC team has actually changed quite a bit from the perspective of extremely proprietary, homegrown culture to really embracing and being part of the open source way of doing things, right? So we are in here for a long haul, but things are going good. Looking at the first developer meetup, I was telling Shane, hey, look at the crowd. It is unbelievable. We had only a handful of Intel folks and a couple of OSU folks, and you can see that the crowd has pretty much expanded quite a bit from the contribution perspective. So it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
And even one thing to mention is the fact that even inside our own companies, like, oh, but there's a bunch of people from EMC and a bunch of people from Intel. Yes, but you have to remember, even inside the companies, just that growth into different business units and organizations, etc., and all of them starting to contribute and being part of it is huge in a lot of these big companies.
So maybe one of the things, just adding on to the amount of friction that goes on within a company, even after this whole SDS framework and Copperhead and all that stuff, lots of folks internally talking about, hey, why should I invest in Copperhead? What's in it for me? So maybe Malini, you can actually spend a few minutes on the 6 to 8 months of effort that went on behind the scenes to convince the Open Source Technology Center, who is primarily focusing on the open source enabling solutions, including OpenStack, Linux, and so on. It was not an easy thing for me to just walk in and say, can you give me a couple of resources? it's not easy.
It's so
You know,
true.
for someone to actually put in
So thank
resources
you
and
so
really
much.
contribute
Yes.
to it, it's not a small thing.
Yeah, so, of course, I mean, Reddy's so friendly and you work with him. That's the only reason. Huh? That's the only reason.
No
Yeah,
bribings
it's
involved in
very
this
hard.
whole thing.
But the thing is, like, there's so many layers. There's a data center group, there's the open source technology group, and the software services group, there's the data group, whatever. And then they'll say, hey, you know, how many storage operators do you need? And typically, how brownfield is it, and how heterogeneous is it? Do I really need this software-defined storage controller type of thing? So every point there's these questions, but one thing I do want to say, the Open Source Technology Center at Intel says there is going to be this. You don't know which is a necessary product. You don't know among the end products which one will be a winner. Maybe we have to invest a little everywhere. So we said, let's start small, let's put 2 heads, and then let's see how this goes. If it takes off, we're going to have another, 8 people all together. We started with 2 really bright people, Chinmay and Nate over here, but that's how we're looking at it. And yes, Reddy is a very important part of it. He's so friendly, easy to work with him.
That's all you have to do.
That's all.
And you
Just
know
needs to be
what?
friendly. That's all it is.
I can ping him on IM and he doesn't give me like, don't bother me. Like, he answers every question. That helps, It doesn't blow me off.
Blows me off all the time.
But the boundaries in the company are high, even though invisible, and it's a hard sell.
Yeah.
And we also have a pretty significant team working in OpenStack, so we wanted to see where it fits in with respect to Cinder. Does it lie under Cinder? Does it lie above Cinder? And then as a hardware company, we're just aware it's going to be software-defined infrastructure. There's going to be a controller for networking, for storage, for compute, and for security that cross-cuts everywhere. And how do you control the controllers is also going to be a thing there. So we're seeing that big picture, and like Reddy said in 2014, we were saying, how is this landscape going to evolve? It was obvious there had to be a storage controller.
Cool.
So I'm here because of Reddy. They're here because of Reddy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Done. I can go home now.
You're buying dinner.
Shane, don't think you're getting off that easy. You put in your 5 minutes. First of all, stand up.
It's a little easier from our point of view. I think in like Reddy saying, in like 2013, we had looked kind of at the landscape and decided that this is what we needed. We needed something in this space, just for our own use in the university. We have a lot of legacy systems. We have a lot of stuff that's nothing is the same. If there's a vendor that makes it, we probably got it. That's just the reality of our world. And so for us, it's been something we've been after for a long time. Like Reddy said, we've been working with Intel, kind of trying to figure out what that vision is. What does that look like? From our standpoint, it's pretty operational, though. It's just, I want it. I need the thing, so that's why we're here. Because nobody was making it, and I got tired of talking about it. I don't know how many conversations that we had with folks where people said, why do you need that? So I need it. I wanted it. Let me explain my data center stuff. That's the reality of my world. Technological refresh, doing migrations between generations of product, all this stuff, it stinks. It's no fun. And right now we have way too much technical expertise from the storage layer coming all the way up, and needing to be involved in all kinds of decision making that just should not be there. It needs to be abstracted. And so for us, it's just been something we believe in, we want it. So we're trying to make it. We got on board real quick with CoprHD. It's the only game in town, in my opinion. There's some conversation about OpenStack. Should it be an OpenStack? I'm absolute huge fan of OpenStack, but that's not what's in my data center. I'm not 100% OpenStack, so I need something that's bigger than Cinder. That's the truth. That's for us. I got VMware. I've got all kinds of stuff. So that's why this project resonates with us. That's why we're here. That's why we'll continue to put more and more resources into the project.
Cool. Thank you, Shane.
I have a quick question.
Oh, please.
You want me to stand up?
Yeah, sure. You don't have to.
Maybe 1 minute later, I might will jump. Is this thing about having different kinds of storage a university thing? Because back in my grad school days, we got freebie, alpha machines, like, yes, we take it, it made a grad students like. So is this like regular industry or only maybe academic institutions?
That's a good question.
I think, so just from my own personal conversations with many peers, other.
Standard.
It's okay. Well, no, this is odd.
Meetup is not supposed to be too formal.
I know. So from our conversations with our other folks in the same field, other academic institutions, very similar problems, 100% consistent. A lot of change over time, especially when we get into things like research. So right now we've kind of started, coming from proprietary systems, but what we're interested in, which is a whole bunch of non-proprietary systems, things like a Ceph thing is super exciting. Because of the way grants and stuff have worked in the past, people kind of, like you said, they get a hold of stuff, they hold on to it, and it accumulates over time, and we need some kind of way to answer the question, what does my storage look like? Right now, we've got islands everywhere. My sense of talking to folks, candidly in other groups is that the same problem exists elsewhere, not just academics, not education.
I can add a little bit of color there if it would be helpful from the customer base in the Northwest. Yeah, so we, just to add a little bit there, so I agree. There's one of the things that we're trying to address with all of our customers in the data center is just complexity, right, in general, and complexity at the storage layer, especially in the storage layer because, to your point, it's the digital assets of the company or the institution. There's high risk with moving and migrating, and so we're trying to minimize complexity and minimize risk all over the place. Most of our customers are trying to do that. So one of the things that this solves for them, right, is the complexity across platforms. There's another element in there that we have some other technologies that help with some of the migration pain points, right, moving from platform A to platform B or between two vendors' platforms, called vPlex. On another axis, though, we also have really large EMC customers that have really large, sprawling EMC install bases. And so from that standpoint, the complexity becomes in scale, comes from a scale perspective and numbers of arrays, and not so much sometimes from the different vendors of arrays. Either way, it's still complexity, and either way, this software layer, this abstraction layer between the host environment and the storage environment provides, a great value, right?
Well, I think
so
it's a foundational thing, because I didn't mention it earlier, but one of the things is not just managing that complexity, but it's providing the foundation for what we want going forward, which is tooling. Like, how am I supposed to making it smart?
Right.
Like, I want to handle migrate or movement of data, aging of data, or how am I supposed to write that tooling? We have historically written it for each vendor because everybody's got an SDK. Not even the vendor.
Right.
Products within the vendor line have their own APIs. And so we end up having to do this, over and over and over. So in my mind, it's a foundational piece as well for the automation that we want. The automation kind of, introspection that we're looking for.
That's the point I want to hammer home this next year. Like the whole you can automate your entire set of storage. Like that's.
Yeah.
I kind of want to push on that too. I've done many customer calls about Viper, automation, and so forth, and they're struggling. You'd be surprised. Many of our customers are multi-vendor, and they struggle with how to make those interoperate. They struggle with complexity, standards. Some of the complexity is in best practices. Part of what we try to do is go out and figure out what the best practices are and put that in code so that the people doing the provisioning don't have to be experts in the best practice of every individual wreck that they encounter. And that happens, they might have, 10 different kinds of equipment. And then the other thing that we try to reduce complexity is in complicated, sort of, I'd call it multi-layer provisioning, where at the bottom you might have a raise, and then you might have a protection system like a V-Plex or an IBM SVC, and then you might have some kind of replication piece of equipment like recover point. And by the time you provision all those together, you've got a provisioning workflow, if you will, that takes 50 or 100 steps. And it's just very complicated for customers to do.
Cool. All right, I think unless anybody has anything else I want to add to that, I think we can safely move over to the next thing on the agenda, which is Southbound SDK.